We can rise, will cause me or pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be sure to please silence your phones and electronic devices. I appreciate that. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to continue discussion that we started at our last council meeting on February 5th to discuss the formation, creation of I'll call it an appointment committee for appointments that come up on an annual basis or whatever basis that is, to adopt, implement some sort of procedure so that we can ensure that if there are multiple candidates who would like to apply for an appointment, that something is in place and that there's a review process. We've, under nobody's fault, not pointing fingers at anybody, because this was, I think, just clearly an oversight that's never really been thought about, but one that I think is shown that needs some attention. So Mr. Naylor and I have talked about some ideas about possibly fixing this going forward, and we also talked about maybe possibly changing the appointment end dates, but after discussion, just more discussion with our auditor, I don't think that's necessary. I think if we just set the committee up properly, that we can just keep the appointment dates as are. I've handed out something I kind of scratched together today. I'll just read it for the public. It's just a proposed solution to select annual or other such appointments for county council / county commissioners. Members of Fayette County Council, County Commissioners, it is proposed that as the County Council, County Commissioners, that we establish a process in which those from the public that are willing to fill upcoming vacant positions for appointment be created. Currently, we have no such process, and in not having one, we are neglecting not only the desire but the opportunity from those citizens that would like to serve. I would propose that a committee be established by which those seeking to nominate themselves or to be nominated by others for such appointed positions be established this day. My proposal would be to establish a body of 4 members made up of 3 county council members and 1 county commissioner. The body would be made up of the county council president and 2 others that are willing to serve, and the president of the county commissioners, unless the president is willing to defer that. This committee would serve on an annual basis to commence on the first day of January until the last day of December of that current calendar year. The role of the committee would be to review any candidate that seeks to fill an upcoming appointment and to consider his or her qualifications. The role of the committee is to only make recommendations to their respective governing body. Their recommendations are in no way to be considered final. The full body of either the county council or the county commissioners will make all decisions by way of the customary majority vote. The process by which this committee would operate: a notice will be posted with the local media, newspaper, TV, social media, announcing the upcoming vacancy for an appointed position. Notice to be given no less than 45 days prior to the appointed position expiring, indicating that it is coming available. Applications, resumes would need to be submitted no later than 2 weeks prior to the appointed position becoming available. Those applications, resumes postmarked received after the 2-week deadline would not be considered. The committee would need to convene within that 2-week time frame and consider all applications and resumes. All those that have applied for an open appointed position and have not been accepted will receive a call back thanking them for taking the time to apply. This, of course, would be after the vote of the respective governing body. Those names recommended by the committee will be submitted to either the county council or the county commissioners. Again, the role of this committee is to make recommendations, not to be the final say. All applications, resumes will be made available to either body upon request should that be desired. Should either the county council or the county commissioners need more time to make their decision on the open appointment, then they have the option to table that appointment vacancy until the appropriate decision can be made. Those that have been selected and accepted the appointed position will sit down with the representative of the governing body, at which time their duties and responsibilities will be explained to them. Again, I want to stress that it is my intention to be fair and respectful to all those having a desire to serve in our community and to afford them that opportunity to do so. The county council will have no bearing on county commissioner appointments. Likewise, the county commissioners will have no bearing upon county council appointments. The formation of this committee is to merely serve as a sounding board Since the commissioners cannot have two commissioners meet at the same time, it is proposed that we invite them to be a part of the county council appointment committee. This is meant to serve only as a possible guideline for such committees should we choose to form one. It is also meant to serve the citizens of Fayette County and to ensure that a fair and transparent selection process is in place. Respectfully submitted, Michael F. Wenta. So that, again, that was just something I put together as maybe a guideline, a framework of something to start with. It wasn't meant to be, the be-all, to end-all. It was just meant to give us something to start with and, make modifications or changes as we need it. But I really, truly, and I know, and everybody that's serving currently or has been elected and served, I don't think it's ever been anybody's intention to neglect anybody in the community or to overlook them. I think it's just been a mere oversight on our part. In saying so, it'll be our responsibility to be more closely see what appointments are coming up for the upcoming year, and in our October meeting, review those appointments and make sure that those are advertised properly so that the public can apply for them if they so choose. That may eliminate our situation that we have where we only have one person, for a position because nobody knows about them. And again, I don't think it's anybody's fault. I don't think it was intended for that to happen, but I think it's important that we address it going forward and that we correct it so that we don't have any problems going forward. That's basically all I have to say. So we talked about changing the date maybe to the end of January. I don't think we need to. If we can leave it the way they are. We just need to be on top of our game and make sure that the appointments are made known to the public. So with that said, I'll shut up.
Mark, I have a question for Ann.
Yes.
And do you, from a legal standpoint, if both bodies agreed on this subcommittee, to do the interview process, would a resolution from both boards adopting this procedure, would that be adequate, or would it need to be an ordinance form to?
No. My understanding is we just need a resolution that's agreed on. Obviously, the commissioners under Indiana law, they have the final say in the final vote. So in looking through resolutions and appointments, the county council can come up with, like I've suggested, which can incorporate what Mr. Wenta has also incorporated, application process or appointee process, to get these people, the candidates who want to apply, get that in. And then ultimately, the commissioners would have final say, but they can take recommendations based on what you guys have set up as your screening process, can take recommendations from the council. I also included my proposed resolution because oftentimes you get recommendations from those boards specifically. So I included, applicants, you could include applicants from outside of those boards that have never been on a board, but also board recommendations. And then, perhaps have the county council make their recommendations for, whether it's 2 or 3 candidates for each board position or however it works out. It might just be one, who knows. But the commissioners do have the final say. But there can be, a process where the county council then can become involved with the recommendation process to who they're recommending the commissioners vote on.
I think what we wanted to do is because of the way the rules are, you can't have more than 2 commissioners meet, because that constitutes a meeting. So what we're trying to do is, again, we're just a sounding board. And with that, Mr. Naylor could go back to the commissioners and say, well, based on what we talked about, these people or this person might be well qualified. And of course, it's still up to whatever governing body, the council or the commissioners, to, if they want to call a couple people in and have a discussion with them, they can. I think it's just the way we're narrowing it down, and again, kind of being transparent, so that's not like, well, hey, wink, wink, well, put you in here if you do this, because, I don't think that's been the intent of anybody.
That's never been the intent.
Never been the intent, and I certainly don't want it to appear that way. I want to appear above board and honest with everybody, and
I guess
I think we
the reason my question was the way it was, I want to create something that'll outlast these two boards members. And if we put it in the form of a resolution or
For sure.
on both bodies that we've created this committee, if this is the committee, if this is the finished product, I want to make sure once us 10 people are gone, we're still using that practice or something better. Too many times elected officials come in, they create groundwork for progress or for forward motion, and then they go out of office and the next set, they throw every bit of that out the window. And so then 4 years later, you start all over again. And then 4 years later, you start all over again. And I think that's one problem we've had in this county, that we've had too many starting overs. And I just want to try to create something that we won't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, every time.
I don't think that'll be an issue. In looking through different county resolutions and the powers of the commissioners, is ultimately the commissioners can say, no, we're making this decision all on our own, whatever. But if the commissioners are willing to release that power to have the county council weigh in, and Mr. Winter has some ideas about how that process could happen, as long as that's agreed on by both parties, yes,
But
the
also-
commissioners would have the final say, but you could make your recommendations to them and they vote based on those. And that would be fine under Indiana law.
I think that's what we want, is we
Yes.
want to be respectful of each other's ability to govern and not step on toes, but we also want to, we value the input of the commissioners, and hopefully they value the input from us. And this is a way of just showing that we're working together for the greater good, which is the community. So again, this is just meant to be an idea. If you said, great, let's go with it, then we would turn it over to Anna and she would make it legal. However, she does her magic there.
Well, like I said, I have a proposed resolution which, with your details, if, that's what's voted on, including as far as timeframes and how that includes, we can reach it.
Yeah.
It's definitely within the legislative intent of the commissioner's powers.
Okay. So,
I have two questions. One deals with what Gary and you were just talking about as far as an ordinance versus a resolution. If the commissioners change 4 years from now, council changes 4 years from now, which one of the two is harder to change, the resolution or the ordinance?
I don't think either one are easy to change. Either one can change.
I mean,
Either
both
one
can be
can-
modified, I
Yeah.
understand
Either one
that.
can be changed. just
Either
as
one can
easily.
be changed.
Either one can be changed,
Yeah.
but the ease of, what I'm trying to say is, just because we change politicians, they can come in, well, we want to rescind that resolution, let's write another one and make a new terms. Is an ordinance harder to do that?
I don't think either one is really harder than the other,
It's gotta be the same.
honestly.
Well, I know we were trying to establish something going on this.
I know.
And then the second question.
John?
Yes.
If I may add to that, I think if the next set of commissioners or the next set of council come in, and if there's a resolution or an ordinance sitting in place, that if they want to change the procedures, at least it's brought
Right.
in public meeting that they're going to change procedures. Because
Right.
right now, we just have a gentleman's agreement, and it can be done without being in public meeting, so to speak. I mean, the idea can change.
It's not going to look real good we're trying to put something together to benefit the community and make it a more transparent process. So whoever that is, follows after us, because I know all of us aren't gonna be here forever, hopefully. That,
And the second question. The way I understand, if this had been in place last year, and most of our board appointments, it looks like from the sheet I've got, expire on the 31st of December,
Right.
with the exception of a few. And on this board, we had 3 new members come in, so basically the appointments that would have been for this year would have been made by last year's council.
No. No, because the recommendations would have went to the new council to make those appointments in January.
So the whole council would have done probably the vetting process. However, the new council decides who.
so it's, I think what Gary and I are talking about, so let's just say that Gary's coming up for reelection next year. Well, you are coming up for reelection next year, aren't you?
Yeah, thanks.
Whatever, in a couple of years. You might not want him appointed to that board in the event that he's not reelected, or something like that. So I'm here for 4 years, and so Kayla's here for 4 years, you're here for 4 years, Kathy's here for 4 years, so we might want to continue with those people in place. And Holly and Kate could be, let's say, 1 year, because they'd be up for reelection in a year. I know we're really kind of overthinking it. We're not overthinking it, the public might think we are, but I know where you're going.
I mean, the possibility was there that the president of the commissioners and the president of the council and the other 3 council people on it, all could be gone
Right,
on January 1st.
yeah.
And then the new council or commissioners would have to either backtrack their recommendations or take them and fly with them.
And it's, for the commissioners, it's up to them, but I just felt that it's important enough that if the president of both body
Right.
be on there, but it's different with the commissioners because, maybe Mr. Naylor's time schedule doesn't permit him to do that. Maybe it's better for Dale, maybe it's better for Mark. He has that flexibility to do that, make that change, and I would say the council president could do the same thing,
Okay.
to defer that to somebody else, so.
All right.
I don't know.
We'll know next year.
Well, you're elected in November. I mean, well, you know who's going to be filling that position by November.
No,
So,
by January 1st. I mean, you know who's
Well,
going to fill it. They're
yes,
not-
if it's a new
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
You don't necessarily know who's gonna be the president or the vice president.
no, but I mean, but like you say too, some of these committees, well, for myself, I was new, and then I'm on this, like, emergency management, and I didn't know who to contact, and if I didn't work here, I wouldn't have known. I didn't know who to contact, what was involved. And I kind of looked up in, just kind of, like, I ended up with Bloomington. Different size, but it's just like they had on there all the commissions that they have, how many seats and how many vacancies, but they told the story too, what that committee was, what the purpose was, kind of give me a highlight. So it would kind of, if you're going to have would the county council members and commissioners have to apply also for that position?
Well, no, if it's a council or whatever, if it's a council or a commissioner position, no, we don't apply for it because it's by the fact that we hold the spot on that board that we're there. We're just agreeing amongst ourselves. There's no other outside application process for that. It's just one of the 7 will fill that vacancy. But I think the same thing would go hand in hand here is who do you contact, what's your responsibility, and so forth and so on, rather than kind of throwing you to the wolves. We're throwing everybody to the wolves, so to speak, because it's not really explained or, what their responsibilities are. So, we need to put something together in the meantime between now and next year as to what these different, jobs entail and how often they meet, and so we can kind of tell you, so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into or not getting yourself into. So I think there's some cleanup that we need to do, but this just kind of identify that we have a problem, I wouldn't say a problem, but a flaw in our process.
Room to improve.
Sorry?
Room to improve. We have room to improve.
Yeah, we do.
And I know, and on the Bloomington one, just as an example, they had an application that had applied. So there was an application on their site where you could fill it out and submit it, that you're interested in a particular position.
Yeah, I mean, if that's something Michael could set up, that's fine. I mean, I'm open to whatever it is. It's just, like I say, this is just a kind of a framework. However that process is, whether it's an application, a paper application, whether it's something set up online, whether it's a resume that they send in, just something expressing their interest, something formal that we have and we can kind of review beforehand so we know that that person is interested in. So if you're okay with this in the way it is, or you want to make improvements to it, I mean, then now's the time to do that so we can have Ann maybe make modifications or corrections to it or put it in legal speak.
Since these are just recommendations, there's no need to come up with a tiebreaker for 4 members. If they happen to be in a tie, you recommend both people then?
The committee,
Yeah. the
it's just
committee.
recommendations. I mean, I would just say if we can agree, then they need to be bringing multiple people to the council or the commissioners and let the commissioners and the council make a decision. Because that's what we're going to do anyways.
Right.
It's going to be a majority vote, so. And that may be a case, we may say, gosh, this person's really good, and 2 people may say, this person's really good.
Right.
I think legally then it would come down to the commissioners, the 3 commissioners voting on it.
Not
because
for
they-
council.
Not for council, but let's say we're trying, to have a combined, and usually it'll probably turn out that there won't be a tie, hopefully. But I think
Well-
if there were,
The voting process will still remain the same for who's ever,
right,
if it's a commissioner's appointment or council, that still lays in their area of expertise, so. But to answer your question, I think there's a chance you might bring 2 or 3 people before the council and say, we thought these 3 people would be great, what do you think? What do you guys think? And then you could ask them your questions and make a decision at the next meeting. It wouldn't have to be made that night if you didn't want to. Something.
I want to make a motion to approve Mike's, what do you call this?
Recommendation.
Proposed solution to select annual or other such appointments for county council and county commissioners. Where do you have it this read?
Okay, and adopt them into a legal
And adopt into a legal
resolution.
Okay.
Second,
Second.
the motion to the floor to approve, now I gotta go read it. The proposed solution to select annual or other such appointments for county council, county commissioners, and to be drafted into a legal resolution by Ann. Any further discussion? All those in, I'm sorry?
who seconded?
Kayla.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carries. That was too easy. Jeez. Okay. The next item up is to, Ann was looking into, to follow up from what we asked her in November about the
Yes.
Meridian. Are you prepared to
What,
address that?
I am prepared to address it. I have spoken to Cassie Gregory, who is the managing lead attorney for the Division of Mental Health in Indiana. And she is the one who will guide us through this process of having both Centerstone and Meridian Health as designated mental health providers. They both meet the qualifications. We just have to have Meridian designated. And then she went on vacation last week and will be returning Wednesday. But we've been in contact, and so she's gonna guide me through that process, which it just sounds like, it's just gonna be some paperwork. Because Meridian has already been qualified, they meet all the qualifications. So it's a matter of us going through the process of having them designated. So I will be going through her, and I've spoken to her several times over the last couple of months. So I'm sure when she gets back from vacation, this will move pretty quickly. So I apologize for that, but
Her name was Kathy Gregory from DMV.
Cassie Gregory from
Cassie?
she's the attorney for Division of Mental Health at FSSA in Indiana. So she kind of is in charge of these type of designations.
And are they the only 2 providers that
They are the only two providers in Fayette County who have been certified as being appropriate for dual diagnosis and mental health providers in the county. Like I said before the last meeting, it's interesting, the code is not clear on this. They've both been certified, but apparently then there's a second step, which is designation. Centerstone has been designated as our county provider, but we can have Midtown designated as well, and that's what Ms. Gregory will be helping us out with to make that process happen. She just happens to have been on vacation the last week into this week, but like I said, we've had good contact up until then, so I expect to hear from her when she gets back from vacation, and we will start that process.
Okay.
But like I said, Meridian's already been certified, so they don't have to go through a certification process or anything like that.
Okay. Jane, is there anything do you understand that needs to further be done, or are we good as of right now?
Say nothing. Don't put me on the spot.
Sorry. Well, I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that we need to discuss. Gary, did you, anything you wanted to add to that topic on Meridian?
It has been my opinion that if the state's going to mandate how much local tax dollars are going to go to mental health, it's been my opinion that we should distribute that equally amongst all companies that are certified in that, have those proper certifications. That's where I've been from the beginning, and I continue to be there. I thought we had more than two, but if that's all that falls under that certification, that's all.
Okay. Anybody from the council? Okay, I have no further business. I'm sorry, Dale.
I'd like to speak a little bit to this, if you don't mind. Mike.
Sure, come up to the podium.
For the last number of years, I can't remember how many it is, the state has mandated that we make available $85,000 to mental health providers that service the county, which we've done. Centerstone has been the recipient of that for a number of years until this recent question has come up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jane, in the beginning of this year, our mandated contribution went from 85,000 to 167,000.
63.
163, okay.
Yeah.
My memory's not good every day. Which was a pretty substantial increase. Now here's what I have contended for a long time, and since, you know, while we've got the Band-Aid off this scab, I'd like to throw this into the mix. As you all well know, or should know, that once the DLGF establishes our tax rate, the maximum amount we're able to levy, the amount of money contributed to mental health institutions that service the county is tacked on to the end of our levy. It comes as an addition to what they approve for our normal operations. Now, past experience has shown us that we don't collect 100% of our levy. So the amount, the $163,000 that the DOJ, that the state has told us we collect mental health, does not take into consideration the fact that it is on the levy, and we will not collect 100% of the levy. And it's been my position, and it's still my position, that the mental health providers in the county should have to live with the same rules that everyone else at the county does, or general fund, and everyone has to live with the amount of money that we are actually able to collect. You all know that, Mike, from, but when we do budget hearings, we estimate we're going to collect 85% of our levy. So if we only collect 85% of our levy, we should only pay out 85% of that $163,000.
The meter's going there.
If we award anyone 100% of the worth of the levy, someone else is getting cheated. You follow me on
I
that?
agree, 10%.
I do too.
Okay, so I don't know. I don't know if the State Board of Accounts or the DLGF would have to approve such a measure or not. But I would recommend we take a look at that seriously and adopt that procedure if we legally can. So I just want to make you aware of that and keep that in mind in this process.
It's a good idea.
Okay?
I do recall you mentioning that in our financial hearings times, and I had thought that Jane had looked into that for us and came back with that it couldn't be done. I mean, I may be speaking from another moment in time.
I remember addressing, we couldn't budget less than that amount, but I don't,
So we couldn't
I've never.
budget, I knew
Yeah.
there was a.
Yeah,
couldn't,
we had to budget the amount that they told us, but I don't know as far as,
if it could be modified
yeah, I mean, it
based
could be
on.
like the rest of our budgets is what Dale is saying, we can budget a certain amount, but if we don't collect that much in taxes, you can't spend money you don't have.
I remembered there being a couldn't, but I
Yeah.
couldn't remember what it was. And so,
It isn't that, that's what it said, estimated levy exempt from levy limits. But that, and then it says like county funding under 122922, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not interpreting, I'm only reading. Does not establish a tax levy, but rather a statutorial required funding levy that is adjusted annually by the state assessed value quotient. So, is it law, is that saying you must, you shall? Or
I'm not sure if I follow you 100% there or not, Kathy, but true, our contributions to mental health providers is exempt from the maximum levy. But at the same time, it is part of the levy, and we will not collect 100% of it, is my point. So my recommendation is if we can make this arrangement to pay out the actual amount that is collected. And I would do that in 2 installments, in the one for the June draw and one for the December draw. That way you know exactly how much that part of the levy has produced. Always before, it's been paid out in one lump sum whenever someone, come in and file a claim. So, and, really, they were actually getting more of their part of the levy than was actually collected. And no one is able to do that. So I think that's a slight flaw in our system that I think can be corrected and should be corrected.
so how do we correct it?
I'm just offering that food for thought for you. It's ultimately the council's decision whether or not you want to take that position, but it would be my recommendation. And I think I've said enough. Okay. Anyone have any other questions for me? Okay, thanks.
Is there anything from the audience? Not, there's nothing else from the council, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn, second. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion meeting adjourned.